So just to be clear and to be, but I mean, this topic is mainly related to my fellow colleague Gergő. Actually, he's really a triple GS graduated as architect. So it's his research field of research, but how it relates to our institute, I will try to just put that into context. So as many countries, Hungary also have this the institutes of culture throughout the world. Actually, I mean, this year we have 27 institutes in 25 countries throughout the world. On the map, if you check, you can see it's mainly they're located in Europe, one in States and some in the Far East, but mainly focusing on Europe. The history starts at the early 20th century after the First World War, when Hungary is on the losing side and tries to find a way out and tries to find ways of connecting to other nations. And then the first five Collegium Hungaricums are founded in Europe. And that's the beginning of these cultural centers, and that works out. And Hungarian artists and scholars and academicians go there and study and make connections with other nations. And that's a kind of way to get in touch with other countries at that point of history. Actually, those are not the first ones as the cultural center. Actually, the first research institute that was founded by Hungary was founded in it's the Constantinopolis Hungarian Research Institute, and that worked from 1916 to 1918 in Istanbul, and the First World War affected it really badly, so it just closed, and that was it. And since then, Hungary was waiting for the right moment to come back to Turkey and get settled again, and we had to wait till 2013. So why is Turkey for? I mean, I'm trying to guess which ways to better to explain why it's important for us. I mean, in the 19th century, when all nations tried to find their way and their ancestors and nationalism starts, there's a big debate in Hungary. Is it the Finno-Ugric or Turkic uh, folks that are closer to us? And actually, the first department of Turkology is founded in Budapest by Arminius Amberi at those times. So we have kind of close feeling to the Turkic people and Turkic nations at that time. So that's the starter. And when we skip back to the 21st century to 2013, uh, autumn, it's autumn time when the Hungarian Culture Center is founded in Istanbul. Uh, that's based on a two-sided agreement between Turkey and Hungary. Actually, Turkey founded its cultural center in Budapest, and Hungary founded its cultural center in Istanbul, in Turkey. Actually, that's just a fun fact. It was supposed to be in Ankara as a starter, but then Istanbul was the final. Yeah, so these are the numbers then. So as I just explained, we had the Hungarian Research Institute in Constantinople at the beginning, and just right after the Turkish democracy was founded, Hungary was the first state to sign the friendship agreement with Turkey. That meant a lot, but we already had the research institute closed. But in 1936, we had the Hungarian Studies, Hungarology department founded in Ankara University by the act of Atatürk. That time, I think that's also a lucky part because it's still there. Actually, just recently today, we had a event there. We were with the students, and it was about a translating workshop. So it's still there and working really fine. So we are really happy about that. That was somehow I won't say ancestor of the cultural center, but somehow the first directors of the department were Hungarians for quite a few years. Then later on, it turned to a regular um department of Hungary. Yeah. Okay, we can see Arit also in our presentation. And a Hungarian name again, Dr. Tibor Halasikun, who played a part in Arit's history, the early history, of course. And when we come back to the 21st century, this is also important to understand. Uh, there was a government policy about Eastern opening that said, okay, we are in Europe and we are part of EU, and of course we are a part. I mean, just let's stop for a moment there. Hungary has been always been a part of Europe, so that's not a question of debate. But also to make partnerships and negotiations and partnerships in the eastern part of the world, especially Turkic world. And of course, Turkey was the first and main target, let's call it that way. In 13, we had this cultural center opened up. Our first place was in Istiklal Caddesi. This was a perfect spot. And just a couple of years after, in 16, we moved to Kağıthane, and we are still there. It's a office building. But that doesn't really restrict our activities there. We aren't a culture center like a municipality cultural center. As right now, we are in Ankara, and we are just two events right today. Uh, Next week, we are in Tekirdağ, and the week after, we are in Trabzon. And 2 weeks ago, we were in Adana. So we are not really focusing just only on Istanbul. We have also on other points of focuses. And as in the entering speech, we could hear in 2024, we had the year of Hungarian-Turkish Common Culture Year. We know this term culture year. It was special, I think, because both sides agreed to do it on the same year in a parallel way. So just Turkey also had over 150 events in Hungary, and Hungary had and the Hungarian Cultural Center was just in the middle point, and we were in charge for for the coordination and for dealing with all parts of the event. And just the year following it, we had the year of science and innovation, and that was also, I mean, last year was busy as well. So when it comes to Hungarian Culture Center activities, it's quite wide scope. As I said, mentioned, we are not just in Istanbul, and we are not just in the cultural center. We just closed our Robert Capa exhibition. I think some of you might have heard of him, famous Hungarian photographer Robert Capa exhibition in Ara Güler Museum. So we have different, and in the culture year, we had a huge project with Para Museum, and we have also ongoing projects last year and this year with Para Museum and Istanbul Modern and Salt Beyoğlu, Salt Galata, and quite a wide range of cultural entities, partners. So that's for Istanbul. Of course, we are focusing also in fine arts exhibitions. We have events, theater, dance, music, literature, as regular cultural centers do have. We have language courses. We do promote scholarships, Hungarian scholarships. Actually, I really heavily believe in that focusing on youth and education topics and connections with universities is really a must, because that's the future. So Hungarian community in Istanbul, on Ankara, we don't have that big, huge community, but we do have in both cities. Scientific tasks, we are not a research center. We are not a scientific research center, but actually my fellow colleague Gergő and myself, I'm just a Turkologist, but my friend Gergő is a Turkologist and an architect as well. So we have these things and topics in mind, and since 2014 when the activity started in the Hungarian Cultural Center. We are like the bottleneck. Can we say that? Like, I mean, people from Hungary and Turkey also find us with different projects. Even if it's not our activities, we try to make a bond between the right institutions and try to uh, make them get in touch with each other. And if we might have, and if possible, we try to also play a part in it. But of course, our places are always, I mean, something they can use, or our library, or our infrastructure, and so on. And we are happy to provide, or if we can do something for them. So it's really a wide range with publication, book tasks, books, talks, uh, lunches. Of course, we have PR. Let's keep, I will just stay there for a moment because we really do focus on having the social media. So if you check out for Magyar Kultúrmerkezi, Hungarian Culture Center, you shall find our Facebook site, on Instagram, X. We have YouTube channel, we have a Spotify, and whenever we do like such like similar talks to this one or some other interviews, anything we focus on them. Of course, we have connections with Turkish media, online or printed ones, and of course, Hungarian Culture Center still from 2016 to 2022 was a part of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary. So, of course, we played a role whenever it came to diplomatic delegations, national days, commemorations, focusing on culture, of course, not military or I don't know other topics, but the ones we could handle, definitely we were there, and we are still there today because our staff is able to be involved in that. Yes, so Hungarian heritage, I will just pop back to the 19th century when there's the Finno-Ugric and the Turkic debate. And so why it's important for us and how we move around, because there are different topics we can focus on that have some Hungarian relation in Turkey. So either there could be some objects, for example, brought back during the Ottoman period by the soldiers. Yeah, taken back, like the important, like the academic ones, the corvinas, the big codexes. They were taken up, and actually in the year of culture, culture year, we had this thing that the Turkish part was really there was a fine. So there was a fine project when the Corvina, I think they were scanned and they were published online in a digital way, so they can be researched from now on. So that was really a fun project. There are sites where our famous Hungarians like Franz Liszt visited Istanbul, who would guess. He stayed there and gave some concerts or some related sites from different periods of history, cemeteries, tombs, of course, especially in the 19th century. I think that was one of the early turn points after the Ottoman period in Hungary. I think that wasn't the best possible way of partnership, but in the 19th century, when we had this 1848-49 rebel and freedom war again, Habsburg Empire, and the Hungarian part lost, and many soldiers and leaders came to Turkey and Ottoman Empire and came a part. Most of them were soldiers, and they became part of Ottoman military and played a role in there. But then it started to become like cooperative connection. Of course, we do have exhibitions, built heritage, important sites, but that's will be the part of Gergő who will get into this in more details. We have some open space areas like parks, even in Ankara, even in Zonguldak, and some other spots. And of course, some roads like Magyar Kardeşler Caddesi. It's yes, it's fun to have them. Yes, of course, we are cooperating with many different, yeah, we have many different partners. I think this is, wouldn't even say half, I think even less than what we are cooperating. Just, I think the logos we could find for this presentation right now. Of course, the Ferry Cemetery initiative is really important. It's a nice project. I think, Gergő, can I leave it to you for the Catholic Cemetery project? Could you just maybe you can drop some sentences about it? We are part of ICOMOS, again, thank you, Gergő. And last year's project, that was also, it's important because of one of our projects last year. Of course, we are in cooperation with our embassy and consulate general from Hungary. We have a huge scope of whoever, and that's also an interesting part because when it comes to Turkey, there are many Hungarian parties and partners and platforms, or even people who are just interested in Turkey, and even from the really basic level to the really highest academic levels. And there are many people dealing with history, linguistics, music, field of music, of course, films, literature, etc. So if you want to have an event about like Turkish literature in Budapest, you could find, I don't know, half a dozen names who could right away support you with that. On the controversy, I mean, in Turkey, we are not that lucky. I mean, we have some people, of course, who can speak about linguistic matters or history, a few about music, but then not that much. Like we are always in a struggle as a cultural center when we make some activities about Hungarian literature, contemporary especially. It's really hard to find someone who can speak about that. So, okay, so this is it. And I think from this point, I will ask my fellow colleague, Gergő, to step in, and this will be the part about rather this part. Okay. Thank you for your attention. Yep.
Thank you very much. I just want to follow with some fields that what kind of activities we have with Hungarian heritage here in Turkey. So we sometimes participate in the research and documentation, or as Áron said, we try to make parties meet and do this kind of research and documentation. Of course, support of research, so help for researchers, organization of workshops. I will tell some examples about that. Sometimes we place or we help to place commemorative plaques, commemorative events, the support of restoration, not only financial or maybe less financial, but with our infrastructure, with our colleagues. For example, in the next week, the Rákóczi Museum in Tekirdağ will have a restoration project, and the National Museum's colleagues will come, and we just help in their work to do the restoration there. But also in the Ferikői Protestant Cemetery in 2024, the Hungarian graves was restored by the Hungarian National Heritage Institute, and we also helped them during their work, and we participate in the publication and dissemination of these sites. I will tell detailed about the website, but we produce documentary films, exhibitions, publications, books, stalls, lectures, and also tours. For example, there is the European Heritage Day, and each year we participate together with Beyoğlu municipality, and we do a tour there related to the Istiklal Avenue. This is the part of the advertisement. So we will have a website, www.hungarianheritageinturkey.com. It's on process, so it will be published within a few weeks, hopefully. There was a website previously which showed these heritage all over in Turkey. We made an update on that, and we will publish it again with some update within a few weeks. So hopefully you will be able to check it. But please just note this website link, and after then check it. It is ready. And sometimes we research not only the realized projects, but also the unrealized projects. For example, we had a project, or we had a long-term work to collect all the buildings which were designed by Hungarians in the territory of Turkey. Together with academicians from Turkey and Hungary, we made exhibitions and published books in Hungarian and Turkish about this topic. And let's go on the spot. And first of all, I would like to tell a few words about the Hungarian heritage in Istanbul. As Áron told, the different types, there are tombs, there are memory of prominent figures, commemorative plaques, historical buildings with connection to Hungary. There are several historical buildings, there are artifacts, so a few objects, road, parks. So there is a long list, and you can check later on that website. I would just tell a few examples of that. For example, there is the Szent Benoit Church when Ferenc Rákóczi II was first buried. He was in exile in Tekirdağ in the 18th century, and after his death, he was buried there in the chapel of the Benedictine monastery. And despite the grave is not there, because after the historical changes, his grave was brought to Košice, to Kassa, in present-day Slovakia. But his memory is still there, and this is also a complex site because there is a memory, but each year we organize together with the Consulate General commemorative mass there, and also we do events to make it much more known. There are figures who are connected to both of the history of Hungary and both of the history of Ottoman Empire. One of the most important is Ibrahim Müteferrika, who founded also a paper mill, but also the first printer house in the Ottoman Empire. He was a Hungarian person, born in Cluj, in Kolozsvár, within Transylvania, in the present-day Romania, but in those times in the territory of Hungarian Kingdom. He was Hungarian, and his grave is in Istanbul. It was moved to the Pera Mevlevi Cemetery, so it's also an important site for us. And also, as Áron said, there are people who have memories, and we remember, or we support or help other enterprises to leave memories of them. For example, Ferenc Liszt, the famous composer Franz Liszt, who was also Hungarian, and in 1847 he gave a concert here there in Istanbul, and the house, or the location of the house where he stayed, is also have a memory. But one of the important person in this common history is Ödön Széchenyi, who founded the first fire station, he actually modernized the fire stations and also the network of the fire stations within the late Ottoman Empire. And his grave is in Feriköy, but not in the Protestant cemetery, where we work together with other countries and other institutions, as well as our ERIT. So in the Protestant cemetery, we cooperate together. Here in the Catholic cemetery, here are also some graves of Hungarians, for example, Ödön Széchenyi. And this is also a kind of complex site because there is the grave, but each year with the fire institution of Istanbul, we make commemoration for the memory of Ödön Széchenyi, and also exhibitions. And if we go to the objects in the Hagia Sophia, if you visit there are some layers of the history which have relation to Hungary. For example, the candlesticks, which was brought by the troops of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent after the siege of Buda. and it's still in the Hagia Sophia. The copy was brought back to Hungary, but for example, that is one reflection of the Hungarian history here in Turkey. And also the Byzantine Empress Irene, who was also born in Hungary. She was a Hungarian princess, and in the term of Kálmán, king of Kálmán, he came to the Byzantine Empire, and he became a very powerful empress. Also had foundations here. So, for example, the Pantokrator Monastery was also one of his foundations, but her sarcophagus, or the object which is rumored to be her sarcophagus, is also in the Hagia Sophia. And this is the Pantokrator Monastery, which was founded by Empress Irene, or we can say that Piroska, Princess Piroska from Hungary. If we go to Ankara or come here to Ankara, there are also these kind of types of very wide variety of sites. There are roads, Lajos Kossuth Street, Budapest Boulevard. There are memory of prominent figures, for example, the memorial and plaque of Lajos Kossuth in Lajos Kossuth Street. There are institutions with Hungarian relations. As Áron said, Ankara University, the Department of Hungarian Studies, is an important institute of that. There are parks. In 2023, Imre Ormos Park was opened here in Ankara. Imre Ormos was a landscape architect who was participated in the design of Ankara in 1920s, and now a park also commemorates his name. There are historical buildings with connections to Hungary, for example, the Museum of Ethnography, where among the founders, there was Gyula Mészáros, or the first meteorology station within the Ankara University, György Tittes and Antal Rétli, who also modernized or founded the modern meteorology in Turkey. There are historical buildings, the historical embassy building, where now you can drink a coffee if you would like, because there's now a cafeteria, but the residence of the Hungarian ambassador, which is very close to here, that was also designed by the famous Turkish architect Giulio Mongeri, the Magyarevleri, or the Hungarian houses, which was constructed by Hungarians, and so on and so on. There are also participation and creation of historical buildings. So, for example, Károly Weichinger, the Hungarian architect, was the member of the jury for the Anit Kabir project competition, which is also a kind of connection and an important connection for us. Or Ferenc Hillinger, a Hungarian architect, who participated in the construction of the Grand National Assembly building. So even there in very important building, we can find some relations, and there are unrealized projects also. And if we go broadly to Turkey, the Hungarian heritage in Tekirdağ is very important to us. The house of, or the dining hall of Prince Ferenc Rákóczi II, who came to exile to the Ottoman Empire in the 18th century. And this house is important because in the beginning of the 20th century, it was purchased by the Hungarian state, and it was a very important cultural diplomatic act that the Hungarian state purchased this house and restored it and covered it to a museum, and it still operates as a museum. So if you visit Tekirdağ, you can see that. And there are newly restored houses, the Csáky house, which was restored by the municipality and also works as a cultural center. If we go to Eastern, in Kocaeli, there is the heritage of Imre Tököl and Iro Zrínyi and the exhibition created by the Hungarian National Museum. As well as in Kütahya, where in the 19th century, the governor of Hungary, Lajos Kossuth, came to exile, and the exhibition, which commemorates to Lajos Kossuth, is still operating there. And in each year we go there, we make memorial days together with the Turkish partners and the local authorities and the local prominence. So it's became a kind of common heritage there. And even in Osmania, this year there is the 19th anniversary that Béla Bartók came to Turkey or the Anatolia and made research on the Anatolian music or the folklore heritage around Osmania. And there is also an exhibition, but each year, as Áron said, that 2 weeks ago we were in Adana and Osmania, so we make their concerts together with the local municipality and the local cultural identities. So that is also important field. And the furthest point, so we can go to Kars even, please visit the Caucasus Front War History Museum, where the soldiers in the 19th century, mainly György Kmeti and Richard Guyon, Hurshid Pasha and Ismail Pasha was in the Caucasian Front and Caucasian War, and the exhibition commemorates to their memory. And now I would like to talk, and that is the last session of this presentation, about 4 projects, which is led by us or by the Hungarian Cultural Center, together with many, many partners from Hungary and Turkey, and mainly about research and the presentation of this heritage. In the beginning of the 20th century, many people came from Hungary to Turkey, and they participated in the building of the construction of the Turkish Republic, not only in an ideological way, but also in a physical way. And one of its important field was the railway lines, which connected the different parts of Turkey. And there is one line between Sivas and Erzurum, which had a very big importance, because the central part of Anatolia was going to be connected to the Caucasian part, so the eastern part of the country, and also to the direction of Caucasus. So it was a really important line. And it came up that 7 bridges were not only constructed by Hungarians, but also they were produced in Hungary. So they brought it in parts, and they made the construction in 1927, 28, 29, that part. And a big compilation of historical photos came to us, which was a very unique heritage, because that was from an inheritance of one construction worker's family. And they are very essential photos which show the everydays of the workers and also the phases of the construction of these bridges. There is no other evidence or no other historical photos about these works, and we made really detailed survey about that, and we found the location of the bridges. And how did we found? We just got to our car with Áron and with other colleague Tamer, and we drove through that line between Erzurum and Erzincan, and we found all the bridges. On the right side, we can see the construction workers on the top, and there are us on the bottom. So we were very happy to find these bridges, which are in very good conditions. And now we could continue the restoration, the research of that, because they are in quite good condition. And we have also planning a cooperation with the Turkish state railways. So just a few photos about the actual and historical bridges. So on the left, you can see it last summer, and on the right side, there are during the construction times. And we made an exhibition there, and now we are planning to bring that exhibition to other cities also. There is another building which is important in the Ottoman, Turkish, and the Hungarian history. In the time when the central part of the Hungarian kingdom was occupied by the Ottoman Empire, then Transylvania became a relatively independent entity. However, it was a vassal state of the Ottoman Empire. So that's why a permanent ambassador had to stay in Constantinople. And the Ottoman Emperor, Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent, provided an existing building for those ambassadors. So that's why it is called, that is the house of the Transylvanian ambassadors. And many important Hungarian figures stayed in that house. And we had ongoing or long project to make the documentation and also to make the hopeful in the future a restoration of the building. But the first phase of that was the kind of documentation of the building. Let's go through the history of the building. So from the 1550s, the ambassadors from Transylvania owned that. In the 17th, it has restoration, renovations there. Many important Hungarian figures, Imre Tököli or Ferenc Rákóczi's people were also staying there. In the 18th century, there was fire there. And in the late 19th century, it became in a very bad condition, a current condition. And in the beginning of the 20th century, Imre Kovács, the diplomat in charge of the archives and also an archivist academician, found the building. So where is it exactly located? Here are his diaries from 1907, because the small street nearby that is still called Magyar Lakosú or Hungarian Street. So we know where the building exactly is, and with Hungarian and Turkish students, with the cooperation of such institutions, which the logos can be seen, so the Yıldız Technical University, the Budapest Technical University, with the support of TIKA and also the foundations, so the Vakıflar Genel Müdürlüğü and our Hungarian Cultural Center, we made a workshop with students from Turkey and Hungary, and we made the documentation of the building. How we made it? We used the TLS scanner, so a total laser scanner. So we made the three-dimensional point cloud of the building, which is a very detailed documentation method, but the students draw it by hand also. And it is a kind of methodology called true to form survey, which means that all the bricks and all the stones were exactly drawn in piece by piece. So that's very detailed survey methodology. And after that, the students made an overlap of the point cloud and also their hand drawings, and they made the digital documentation of the building. So it's a quite detailed digital documentation, which is very important because building archaeology without any damage can be done according to that documentation. So all the small traces, the small modifications, the small beams, and everything can be found, and the history of the modification of the building can be drawn up accordingly. So we have found that there was, for example, a bath nearby that because the bath tubes traces were found, and so on and so on. So it's a very interesting story, and a very detailed documentation was made. And nowadays we are making the three-dimensional restoration of the building with Hungarian partners. And we will hopefully can be made in a three-dimensional visual how it looked like in those times. So that is one project. And the students not only documented the building, but also made small design projects on that. So for example, they have had ideas how to develop, for example, this building, how to make the restorations, and made these small student projects on that. So it was a long journey and a very complex journey. The other project, or the third one, before the last, so this is the project before the last one, it was the documentation of the Ferikő Protestant Cemetery's chapel and also of some graves. It was a workshop in 2021, also made by Budapest Technical University and Yıldız Technical University. The Gülbaba Heritage Foundation and the Ferikő Cemetery Initiative helped our program a lot. With the same methodology, with the same results, let's say. And we had last summer a very complex project again. That was documentation of Hungarian houses in Milas. On the right side, we can see that the Milas municipality and also the Mula Szitki Kosmány University helped a lot for us. And it was an ICOMOS project So it was accepted by ICOMOS. And it was, I think, the most complex project based on the previous ones. So what we done on site? We made true to form survey manual, so the students drawn everything. We learned a lot because professors from Turkey and from Hungary made lectures for the students. We made consultation with local architects who had knowledge on the local buildings. We also made presentation for the major, and we had a really ongoing talk with the municipality, and the major helped a lot for us. We made a TLS scanner, a point cloud on that, and we made structural surveys. So there were professors who just surveyed the layers of the plasters, or for example, the constructions. We made a very detailed photo documentation and a research of the environment. So that was on site within the 10 days when we were there on the workshop. However, in the following period, we had two sites, let's say, one academician side and one for the broader public. So the students prepared the digital CAD drawings. Also, the 3D reconstruction is ongoingly under making, preparation. We made a booklet about that, and the students presented scientific conference papers at the university about that, and we are doing scientific publications. Also, we made conference papers and exhibitions. One will be in May in Budapest, and also in Milas and in Istanbul. And one documentary film is under procession nowadays. So hopefully we will be able to show you this whole story in a documentary film. So I think this kind of complexity of the project is very inspiring for us. So what Milas can give us, or what this project can mean for us, that is a research and survey of a Hungarian-related building. There is a multidisciplinary research with historians, with architects, with archaeologists, with the representative of municipalities. So it is have a kind of multidisciplinary. It is part of the education. However, we have strong relation with the public. The people of Milas also came there, and they were watching that what we are doing, and also they are still remembering that that house was made by Hungarian workers in the 1920s. So we somehow help with this project to bring these memories to the surface, and also to strengthen the identity of the building. And of course, this project is part of the diplomatic relations between the embassy and the municipality and the ministry and the cultural center, and between universities, so technical university and the local university. So I think this is something which sums up what we as Hungarian Cultural Center can do. And thank you very much for your attention, and also Áron.